international guest speaker, Dr. Aman Shankar, an associate professor at Manipal Academic Higher Education, Manipal University, Bangalore campus, India. The webinar will cover the following key topics: behavioral traits of Gen Z expectations from teacher, Pedagogy, Andragogy, and Pedagogy, Bloom Taxonomy and Andragogy, diversified learning styles, strategies of effective Gen Z classroom engagement. Thank you so much once more, Professor, for accepting our invitation, and welcome to Kurdistan. Thank you so much again, Professor Himdad, for letting us introducing this webinar, and I hope that all of the participants and attendants will get more fruitful time with this webinar.
For sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Momin, for this nice introduction. And I just want to remind you that we are streaming live on Facebook also, if you have friends who could not register with us, but it will stay there. And after the webinar, we are also recording all the session. We will be sharing the link with you later on so that you will also share with your colleagues who might be interested in the topic. Professor Aman Shankar, the floor is yours, sir. And from 45 to 50 minutes is your time, and we can negotiate the time if you want, but that's usually what we give, and we leave the rest for questions and answers. You are co-host, you can share your screen. We can see you very beautifully with your library behind. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Himdad. And I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope this is a thing I think we often we keep reciting on our day-to-day basis. Am I audible? Am I visible in our day-to-day sessions? So because of the grace that we have been blessed with COVID-19. All right. So once again, I also thank Dr. Momin for his gracious and beautiful introduction of mine. And before we go ahead, I just want to ask one more thing to the ladies and gentlemen who are here. Do you want the session to be more conventional kind, wherein I just go on with my presentation, or you also expect me to add some, a light sense of humor in between? The choice is left.
Actually, at this time that we are going through, we all are in need of good humor and to have some fun with learning also.
Right. Thank you.
With this stress around the world.
Thank you, Dr. Momin. Sorry, Dr. Himdad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so now let's move on. Today, for the talk, we are going to just have some discussion about teaching learning dynamics at Gen Z classroom. And just below that, I've also given a small quote here. That is, every classroom session is beautiful with a promising learning experience. And as you all know that the way, of course, when we were studying in our traditional classrooms, we did have very less expectations. Not only expectations, I would say, I don't think that, it was an expectation. So something that was, enforced on us. And of course, we are quite good enough, to accept it. But coming to Gen Z, that is the new generation, so what we are finding now. Okay, so of course, in their, view, of course, the learning is something different. And the way, they accept the knowledge input, that's also entirely different, right? So moving on, so these are the main objectives of our webinar today. First, we'll try to deliberate on the readiness of faculty to meet the classroom of new generation. Then we'll try to comprehend various pedagogical, andragogical, and pedagogical approaches in sessions. And we'll try to understand the evolution of contemporary pedagogy. And we'll also try to understand the other dimensions of learning styles of these youngsters, that is through MI theory in teaching practices. And before we go ahead, I just thought, let me just recollect, one of my experiences in the recent past. So it's almost, 1 year ago. It was my session. It was scheduled between 9 and 10:30. And that day, I was supposed to deliver a lecture on transactional analysis. And it was my favorite topic. I say it was my favorite topic. So with the same zeal, I went to the session. Okay, so I looked at my students and they were so energetic. And as you all know, we being the teachers, we get that energy through our students. I was so motivated by their vibes, positive vibes, and I started my session. And I was so enthralled by seeing them because they're so attentive, okay, during the session. So they all were just looking like this. Okay. They just directly they were establishing eye contact with me and they were looking at me. And I was much more, motivated by that. And I just went on. I went on. And of course, I lost, how the time passed. And almost by 10:30, because we all know that 5 or 10 minutes prior to the conclusion of the session, we do come across lots of gestures from our learners that, sir, it's already time. Of course, they don't say it's already time, but they say through the gestures that it's already time, so please go out. But fortunately, on that day, I did not get any such signals or gestures from them. So I continued. And it was almost, 5 or 10 minutes ahead, but we still, I did not get any gestures from them. But later I realized that it's already time. It was already 10:40. So then, of course, I timed the class and I was so happy. And of course, I thought that, of course, I've done the best thing, okay, today. And with the same joy, the same smile, I was just coming out of the class. Okay. And by then, some of my learners, of course, they had come out and of course, they were interacting with their peer group. And one of the ladies there, she was talking to the other person saying, I'm just saying this in Hindi. Of course, that lady, she was saying in Hindi, and later on I'll interpret this in English. She said, "Are yaar, subah subah sula diya," which means he made us sleep early in the morning. I was almost, in the heights of that joy, but after listening to that, all my smile came down. And only then I realized that these students are so brilliant that they can sleep while their eyes are opened. So this is what happens in most of our classrooms. We do have certain expectations. We do have certain perceptions. Okay. But yes, we do not know what's happening in the minds of our young learners. Okay. And most of our discussions today might be centered around this. I hope so. Okay, and before we go ahead, I just, jotted down a few questions here. Well, if anybody wants to respond to this, you can respond. How prepared are, that is we, to function in learner-centered classrooms and support personalized instructions? So there's one of the biggest challenges, or one of the biggest questions that we come across. How receptive, okay, are we to engaging, students, not just as consumers, but also as producers of content? I think this question is very much clear. So we often, of course, look at the students as consumers. It's something like, feeding, okay? We just, go with the intention of feeding the students, okay, feeding the knowledge to them. All right, so we have fed them, but have we enabled them to reproduce that content through their behavior, through their actions? That's again a big question mark. Then, are we prepared, to continuously, learn new technologies? As we all know that we are in the world of evolution. So this evolution, not only, of course, happening, of course, in our social life, but evolution is happening almost in all the dimensions, in all the walks of life. So evolution is happening, even of course in our teaching pedagogies, learning styles of the students, and all this. And are we prepared? And of course, that's what we often contemplate on the importance of learn, unlearn, and read. So yes, again, we have to question ourselves that, are we into the mindset of this? Then, can faculty develop skills to engage in project-based learning? So project-based learning is something, it happens in the mutual concept. And of course, project-based learning is something which gives some kind of experiential learning to our students. Are we ready for that? Then, so are we ready to connect with the students' learning process? All right. So often, when we ask this question mark, when we ask this question to ourselves, again, a lot of other questions also, of course, evolve, of course, in our mind. It's not just, sharing the knowledge with the students. Are we rightly, connecting that knowledge? Are we, enabling that knowledge transforming into the skill set? So that's also our biggest challenge. Because I'm also actually into corporate training. I often discuss with the HR people, particularly like, how industry ready our students are. So there, to be frank, so I didn't get any kind of encouraging response from them. So what they asked us, yeah, in your universities, you say that the student is 90% or A+. But when they come here, if you look at their performance, your grades do not match with their skill set. So here, again, a question mark to the faculty that, yeah, whether the transformation of skills is happening or not in this regard. So then, are we ready to collaborate the learning initiatives? See, when you talk about collaborating, I would say that, as already told you, that learning is again a mutual concept. So many of us, what we do is when you go to the classroom, so we just go as a giver, and absolutely not as the team. So this is where we go wrong. So according to me, classroom is a kind of it's a place where collaborative learning happens. And this is what, of course, we do come across in the next slides, that this is what even our Gen Z students do expect from us. Then, are we ready to innovate? Well, so innovate in what terms? Particularly in terms of teaching methodologies, the strategies that we have. So gone are those days where the faculty used to go with a textbook or with any reference book and give a lecture, a long lecture, and the students very cleanly, very keenly, of course, listen to the lecture and make notes. So gone are those days. Because, as per my knowledge, coming to giving a lecture or kind of, delivering the knowledge to the students, I can say that Google can do a better job than the faculty. Hope you all agree with me, right? Okay. Now let's come to the very important dimension of our discussion, Gen Z. So what are these Gen Z people? So Gen Z people are also called Zoomers. Okay, I think you all know what exactly the Zoomers mean. Okay, so they are highly, hyperactive. They're highly sensible, okay, to the surroundings. And these are the people who preceded millennials. And of course, in our classrooms, we do come across both millennials and as well as Gen Z people. And the next, of course, it will be preceded by one more generation called Alpha. Fortunately, we have not come across this, Alpha generation in our higher education classrooms. All right. So now coming on to now what we do is that first we will just try to understand So what are the personal traits? Okay, what are the personality types? What are the preferences, in general preferences of this Gen Z? And then we'll go for the learning strategies, right? Okay. So the economist described generation Gen Z as a more educated, well-behaved, stressed, and depressed generation in comparison to the previous ones. So here, when we look at this, I think that may lead to some kind of confusion. So are we dealing with these kind of depressed people? Are we dealing with this kind of stressed people? I'll say one thing. So there is always, again, there is one positive sense here. When we talk about stressed, see, they are stressed because their mind is occupied with so many ambitions. So many ambitions. So they always, something like, they always attach some kind of wings of fire, with them so that they can fly higher and higher, of course, in that professional or essence. So they're not complacent like what we were earlier. Okay, so they always have that, thirst or, thriving nature to excel. I think might be because of that they're stressed. And again, in 2016, the Varkey Foundation and Populous conducted an international study examining the attitudes of over 20,000 people. Okay, those were aged between 15 to 21 in almost 20 countries. Okay, there they came across this. So this was the data. Okay, in different countries, and this is about net happiness score of these Gen Z people. But basically, they are happy. Of course, in some countries, like, yes, there might be some plus or plus or minuses might be there, but basically, yes, they are happy. So why I'm saying they are happy which mean they are actually receptive to learning. But only thing is, they do have certain terms and conditions. They say that this is how I want to receive that learning. Okay. And some of course, I'm also actually showing you some data. Okay, so which I got it actually from McKinsey, one of the world's largest consultants, management consultants, in the world. Okay, so when we look at the source of happiness, you can look at the major chunk. Okay, you can say 94%. Which means, they focus more on this physical and mental health. And second comes to that 92%. So which means a good relationship with the family. And 91% good relationship with friends. And why I'm saying you this, that is the second part. If you see 92% and 91%, they are actually more connected with the family. They are more connected with the friends. They're more connected with their peer group, which means, their interpersonal relationships are really strong. They are actually speaking, they are social beings. Yeah. Coming to factors of stress, what makes them more stressed? First, 51% is money. Money, you must be wondering, so why the money should be the source of stress for them? Because if you look at this generation, these people are more professional oriented. Why they are more professional oriented because they have lots of ambitions, not only personal ambitions, but they have lots of desires. All right, so I'll say desires in a positive sense. Because a person who has more desires, only that person will strive, will work hard to achieve those things. Okay. Whereas when you see 46%, of course, it's quite scary. School. They are very much, scared of the school. I think we have our own meanings to attach for this. So why these students are afraid of school? Okay, that of course probably we will discuss about this in the last. And the sources of influence. First, 89%, so they are parents. Second, friends and the teachers. And of course, I was just wondering, when I was keenly studying the data given by McKinsey report, and I was so happy after seeing this. But somewhere, like we teachers play a major role in influencing them. But how do we influence them? Or how do they expect that influence should come from the teacher? Okay. All right. So, sorry, I'm just going back to this slide. Teachers, or to say, for example, let me just recollect the previous one. I just remember one small story. Okay, a kind of an anecdote. I thought it makes a lot of sense here in this 46%. That's where the most of the students feel stressed. I believe you all know about Albert Einstein, a great scientist of the world. And we also know that he received a Nobel Prize for his work, photoelectric effect, but he's very famous for theory of relativity. He's very famous for theory of relativity. In that theory of relativity, of course, I'm not a science graduate. I'm just just speaking in layman's terms. So the theory of relativity says that the days in the earth seems to be much longer than the day in the moon. This is what Albert Einstein says in the theory. As he became more popular through this theory. Okay, so once he was invited as a guest, he went, and of course, when he was addressing the people, so one of them from the audience, he just raised his hand and said, "Sir, I have a doubt." So Mr. Einstein said, "Yeah, what's that?" So then this gentleman asked, "Sir, actually, I read your theory. In your theory, you say, why do you say that the days, the days seem to be much shorter in the moon compared to Earth? That is, the day in the Earth is much longer, and the day in the moon something shorter. So why?" So Albert Einstein, like he was a bit confused because he was a layman like me, a person who asked the question was a layman. And he knew very well that if he had explained them scientifically, he may not understand. So he came up with a small anecdote again here. He asked him. So no, he just said something like this. See, assume that you are sitting on a hot stove. See, the day in the earth is something like you're sitting on a hot stove, where even a minute seems to be an hour. So there's something like the day in the earth. If you sit on a hot stove, even a minute seems to be an hour. But the day in the moon is something like you sit with your very close friend, beloved friend. There, even an hour seems to be a minute. Okay. So then, of course, he understood. That layman understood, like, what's the difference? The difference is very simple here. What kind of emotions we attach with the place, that defines the time should be longer or shorter. So even in the classrooms, it's the same. Because many a times, my students have told me, "Sir, you come at 4:30. You come at 4:30. Sometimes I take the last session, 4:30 to 6. Sir, you come at 4:30. You give a lengthy lecture, okay, and we look at the watch, and it's still 4:35, and we feel as if the time has stopped moving." Of course, they don't tell me, but in others' classes. I'm just trying to, save my face. So what I exactly mean is that they're not more emotionally connected with the learning. That is, we are not enabling them, to connect emotionally with what they learn. And that is making their life miserable in the classroom. And that's what, making them more and more stressed in the classroom. All right. All right. So with this note, let's move on. Coming to this as a source of influence. Yes. If you want to make our students feel, themselves, in the moon or in the earth, actually, it depends on us. Yes. As per the report, yes, they say that, yes, the students do, they do look up to the, teachers for the influence. Yes, this again, we can take it as a better sign, okay, and we can explore some, opportunities to influence. And what could be the concerns or even the importance of it, we'll discuss about here. So these are the major concerns for the Gen Z people. That is 47%. It's again the family. As I told you that, yes, they are more connected to the family. The social life is very much valued here. And you can just have a look at this again. So here I brought in again, this is again what actually, I derived it actually from McKinsey report. So this talks about all the 4 generations. And you can see that how the generation differs from one to one and even their behavioral traits. Even if you look at Gen X or even baby boomers, their life was entirely different. And their social and other economic circumstances were different. But coming to even Y, millennials for some extent, even Gen Z, the way they grew up, and of course, even their economic or even other demographic things were entirely different. I still remember one of my senior friends, I would say, okay, one of my senior friends. I was actually interacting with him. He's of, I think, yeah, actually he comes in baby boomers. Okay. He belongs to that Gen B. I was just interacting with him and I just asked him, so what was your pastime? So when you were young, when you were hardly at the age of 18, 20, what was your pastime? And after listening to that, I was shocked. He said, Umashankar, our only pastime was once in a month going to a movie, to the theater. Once in a month, going to a restaurant and having their favorite dish. That was their pastime. Because they did not have money. And not only that, even they did not have so many eat outs that we have now. So absolutely, they did not have any such kind of Domino's or restaurants as we have now. They did not have social media. They did not have Facebook. They did not have LinkedIn, no Twitter, nothing. Whereas now, if you see that, Gen Z, so they are exposed to almost all the things. You can see that, so I think, in Gen Z, the second point in the context, they actually, multiple realities they are in. So during Gen B, they had only one reality. But whereas for this Gen Z, they have multiple realities. That is, they are living or they are seeing the realities of all the previous 3 generations. I think now you can understand how subtle these people are, how much agile these Gen Z people are. Okay, and coming to behavior part, they are something like undefined ID. That is, they don't have a specific identity. They have kind of multiple identities. And they are communoholic. They want to talk. Okay, they want to have more dialogues with the people. Okay, and they are more realistic in nature. Okay. All right, so now we are coming to the business. I believe that so far, I think we have understood what exactly these people are, what these generations are, and what the behavioral traits of these people. And now we'll just try to connect various learning methodologies, with this generation, right? Okay. So I believe that now these are an upcoming term, I can say, pedagogy. See, I think in the previous slide, you also understood that these Gen Z people, they are digital natives. They can play with the computers. They can play with the technology. Okay. And yes, to be frank, people feel more comfortable with this. So this can become the major source of learning for them. This is sufficient for them to learn. And whereas we are with this. Okay, so we are actually more attached to the books. But yes, those people, they are more actually they have actually, what I say, they have arrested the entire, globe in this mobile phone. And through this, yes, they want to learn. That is through online. So when I say that online, it's not that they learn, they want to go only with the online courses. For an example, if I give them any assignment, the first thing, what they try to do is that they try to Google. Right? They try to Google. And if I tell them, okay, you do this or do that, if I give my own definitions of something, they don't take it. They want to explore. They want to explore the knowledge by themselves. So this pedagogy is something, where the student learning process happen actually through internet. All right. And then going to andragogy. So andragogy is something, kind of more of into kind of, adult learning principles. So usually like once, our students are adult learners, probably they may not appreciate the learning that they had when they were children. Okay. Then the third dimension is something of pedagogy, which we are more into that. We are more actually, attached to that pedagogy. All right. Because as you all know that, as soon as, we try to go to the class, the first objective of a teacher, but of course, I'm not generalizing, sometimes our first objective is to teach. Okay. Syllabus completion. You have to complete all the syllabus, ensure that, the students are ready for the exam, do the revision, all these things. These are our objectives. But fortunately or unfortunately, the students have different objectives. Okay, and let us try to learn how do we reconcile, okay, between the teacher and the student. So these are the fundamentals of pedagogy. Teacher-centric. Right. So teacher-centric, I mean, where I feel that the students must learn only this. They should not go beyond that. Or something, as a teacher, I feel, okay, the students should learn only through this way, not a different way. Okay. The second one, learners as naive. It is, we feel whenever actually we go for any higher education classroom, this is the biggest mistake that we do. We go to the classroom thinking that our students don't know anything, but actually sometimes in some domains, they know better than us. All right. And one more thing, also, there's one more thing, yes, to be frank, whenever I go to the classroom, I never introduce myself with my qualification. Sometimes I feel scared that, whether the people will accept me or not. Okay, because the students actually, once, if you want to make them student as a naive, they don't accept it. Okay, because, treat them as something, as a kind of co-learner, they'll accept it. But if I say, hey guys, you do not know anything, so let me teach you. these people are not ready to accept it. So there they create one shield, protective shield in front of them. And then strictly supervised. Okay, so wherein, where the teaching learning process is strictly supervised by the faculty. Okay, so wherein somewhere, I feel that this strict supervision is going to suffocate their creativity, right? And then the stress on the theory, knowledge feed, dependence of learners. Okay, so all these are the fundamentals of pedagogy. I think, as we go through this, I think we can sometimes, we can correlate these things with our classrooms. Okay, so coming to Bloom's taxonomy. Of course, usually I think, across the world, so Bloom's taxonomy is a kind of, it's a standard benchmark, okay, for the teaching learning process. Okay. So this is what. See, actually, we go through different stages of teaching or learning process, according to Bloom's taxonomy. The first stage, we enable the learners to remember what they've learned. Then comprehend, understand what they learned, then application. So this whatever they have learned, they have to apply that. Then analysis. Once they apply it, they have to analyze the results of that application. Then again, they evaluate. And then at last comes the creativity or some kind of innovation. So these are the, various stages of learning process according to Bloom's taxonomy. Well, most of the times what happening is in purely pedagogy, teacher-centric pedagogy, we stop at remembering and comprehension, where we'll make the students just remember what they've learned and just comprehend, just one step above, just comprehend what they have learned. So the purpose of education is lost there, right? So this is what actually major, things, usually happen, okay, particularly in terms of pedagogy and professional education. Okay, moving on to this. Adult learning. Very, very important. Of course, this is what actually I like a lot. So you can just see that line. The art and science of helping adults learn. So we call that as art and science. What is that art and science? And before that, let us bring in some comparison here between pedagogy and adult learning. It's something adult learning is nothing but andragogy. Okay. As we discussed, it will stop the influence of pedagogy on our learners, on our students, will stop at the second stage, comprehension. But whereas if you take adult learning, the Andragogy principles, it will go up to the creativity, wherein it will enable the learners to be more creative, okay, in the application of what they have. So these are the fundamental principles of Andragogy. One is motivation, orientation to learning, readiness to learn, the learner's experience, the learner's self-concept, the need to know. All right. Coming to this, the need to know. All right. So I just want to, just you can just keep this, or you can somewhere you can note it, can actually have some discussion on this at last. Many a times we know why the students must learn this. Whether the students have asked us, so why we should learn this. So this is where actually the major challenge comes. Because the students keep learning and they never know and why they want to learn that. So this is again, first thing, that we have to make the students understand that this is why you have to learn. So we actually in the management thing, we call this as what is in it for me? What is in it for me? Okay, if you learn this, this is what you're going to gain. To be frank, this Gen Z people, they are quite adamant in this. I still remember once, I had done some research, okay, in indigenous psychology, okay, and I was just giving a presentation to the students just for 10-15 minutes as a time filler. One of the students asked me, okay, sir, you are showing all this, so what is in it for me? How is this going to add value to my professional life? Then I had to be like this. Oh, these students are really brave, right? And then this is very important, ladies and gentlemen, the learner's self-concept. So of course, we have done a lot of research, particularly in terms of this, that all the people, like if you take Gen Z people particularly, okay, so they have a different self-concept. Okay, so here, all the people want to feel that they are significant, competent, and likable. So usually, like in the classroom, I think we might have seen some students, they're very, very silent. They're so silent, something like our Gautam Buddha. And it's not that they do not know anything. It's not that they do not have any content to express. But they all have some fears. I'm just first talking about fears. Okay, what they feel that, yes, if I say something this, I may be ignored, or I may be humiliated for what I say, because whatever I say, if it doesn't make sense, okay, the entire class might laugh at me. The teacher actually again may develop some negative impression on me, okay, or I may be completely rejected from this class. So they have these fears. And as the faculty, as the teachers, can we create that kind of safe atmosphere, safe learning atmosphere for the students, wherein you give an assurance to the students that whatever you speak, whether it is right or wrong, you'll be accepted. So can we give this kind of assurance to them? Okay, one. If you go to the other dimension of it, the people, these students, they want to feel that, usually they feel that they are significant in the classroom. Okay, they feel that they are competent. It's quite natural. Universally, all of them, they have these feelings that they are significant, they're competent, and they're likable, particularly, when they are, in a group. And as a teacher, we should ensure that these three things are not threatened in the process of teaching learning. All right. The next one, the learner's experience. Wow, it's very, very, of course, although this is something very subjective in nature, that is, particularly evaluating the learner's experience, subjective, but still, it can be quantified through some observation. This is what I do, observe, of course, in the classroom. You give a lecture, sorry, not a lecture, I will not use the term lecture. So you engage the class for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, okay? And when you're coming out of the session, how many students come after you seeking some clarifications or to add on some more information to that? That actually defines like what kind of learning experience, like these students had. So this is what personally, I felt during my classes. Readiness to learn, whether the students are ready to learn. Because again, this is what I often keep telling, but my colleagues, not colleagues, of course, people from other profession, they often contradict with me. I tell them that if there is any challenging profession, it is the teacher's profession. I hope you all agree with me. I'll tell you why. Because when I go to the classroom, I see 60 students, 60 students with 60 diversified emotional states, 60 diversified learning styles. Okay. And I don't think that, as soon as, I go to the classroom, okay, immediately I can start the session. So just, assuming that all the 60 people are ready to connect themselves with the learning process. So that also we need to ascertain, when you go to the classroom. That's what I do is that I tell stories. I tell beautiful stories to the students in the beginning. Beautiful story is something related to that particular learning concept for the day. And yes, I assume that, most of the students, majority of them, they love stories because we all are humans, right? So this is our tendency. Okay. Then orientation to learning. So yes, we often, should keep orienting, the students to learn. So as already discussed that, we have to tell them that what is in it for you, okay, if you learn. Then motivation. What is that motivation you're giving to the students in the class? Again, it depends on each individual. Okay, that some of the students, they love to be recognized in the classroom. Okay, or some of the students might be again. Let me just put forth this before I forget this point. Students are not so bothered about the grades. It is not the grades actually that motivate them. It's not the grades. But once, if we can boost their self-esteem in front of others, if you can, help them to build their personal brand, in the classroom, that will definitely motivate them. And not only that, the peer group. So what I usually do is that, my lecture would be very minimal. But what I do is that actually I may just form the groups, okay, the peers, okay, and each, group, I'll be giving some assignment and they'll be working together, they'll be coming, in front of the class and they'll be sharing. So this is what motivates them. That is to learn in the group. All right. So like this, as a teacher, we must also try to understand. So what actually motivates the learners? Okay. And coming to the next, this is very important for us as teachers. Yeah, I believe we teachers, we all are humans. We all are humans. Any contradictions with this? I believe we all are humans, right? So if we all are humans, obviously, biases should be there, right? So, but when you go to the classroom, you should ensure that these biases are minimalized. One is, again, coming to framing cognitive bias. See, when we talk about framing of cognitive bias, it depends on the teacher's personality, teacher's mindset. Okay, I'll give you an example. This old example, right? So if I show you a bottle, often I think it's almost, some people might say it is 20% empty and 80% full. And some people, they say it is 20% air and 80% water, right? We have different way of looking at the things, looking at the world. So alike, what we do is we are just carried away by our cognitive biases when we are looking at the student's performance. So that has to be neutralized. Then anchoring bias. So anchoring bias is something, what we actually do is we look at that person's, the first impression. We all have this kind of thing, if once a student does something wrong, misbehaves in the class, then it is frozen. Is freezed as a kind of, mischievous student, notorious student. And from there on, we start evaluating that student based on the same impression, of course, that we had in the beginning. Then confirmation bias. Usually confirmation bias comes through our past experiences. We all have this kind of mental frame that last benchers are mischievous, right? Why men? So this is what we have been listening to. Okay, since the old days, we have been listening to this. The people, those who go and sit, of course, in the last bench, they are mischievous and they don't have any seriousness. So this kind of confirmation bias, it has to be neutralized. And then herd mentality. It's very simple. Assume that I have one faculty, I have my colleague. My colleague comes and says, "Hey, you see that Dr. Momin? Okay, so all right, he's not a student. Okay, you see, Momin is a very mischievous student." So then what I do is I also start, developing my own mindset about Momin. Oh, Momin is not a good student. Now, actually speaking, Dr. Momin was one of my favorite students, in my class. I'm just giving an example here. That's it, right? So these are the biases that we need to neutralize, of course, as a teacher when you go to the class. So these are a few things, when you talk about, how this andragogy, pedagogy, and again, pedagogy, all these, learning theories, of course, evolved through various time frames. So I'm not explaining this. Probably I'll share this with you later. All right, coming to multiple intelligences. I think here we are. Very important thing. I just want to know, before I go ahead, Dr. Himdad.
Yes, Professor.
May I know if that file has been shared with the participants?
Yes, it has been shared with them. Some of them had problem, but
okay.
It was sent to them the second time
all
also.
Right. All right. Thank you.
We shared it with the group also, participants. We had a file, an Excel file shared by Professor. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
All right. So I believe that, like Dr. Himdad, shared one file with all of you. I think you also took the test. And I think, and you also saw the results and where actually usually you stand. Which learning style, of course, where, you fall into. Alike, given how students have their own, learning styles. Say for an example. All right, so I cannot see okay, you can just unmute yourself and you can just say that, can anyone say who is that first person? I've just mastered it.
From the left to right?
Yeah, from the left to right.
Albert Einstein?
Perfect, Doctor. Yes, it's Albert Einstein. All right, the second one. Any guesses? All right, I can also give you a hint.
If you cannot unmute yourself, please, you can write it on the chat box. Yes, Sangar Ismail has written Gandhi, Soma Nauzad, Gandhi, yeah.
Perfect.
Dr. Momin also, Gandhi. Fatima,
yes.
Yeah.
Perfect, good. Perfect.
I'm following the chat box, Dr.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. All right, so the third I'll give you a hint.
Third one.
He's a very famous spiritual leader in India.
Lama.
Dalai Lama?
I don't know, actually.
All right. Swami Vivekananda.
All
right. The fourth one.
Vivekananda Balaji Basutkar has written. Yeah, Vivekananda.
One of the renowned musicians. Of course, he hails from India, but globally he's a renowned musician.
The fourth one, Rahman has written Al Pacino. I don't know.
You're almost there. It is Rahman.
No. Yeah.
All right. Number 5.
Second row from the bottom, from the left.
Yes. Any guesses?
Any guesses?
Agree.
Okay, Rahman is still defending his Al Pacino guess.
There was one movie, actually, Hollywood movie, almost three parts. Part 1, 2, 3. And he was a great teacher of a great student who was into martial arts.
The famous Bruce Lee.
Yes.
Charitra H.G. has written that.
Bruce Lee?
Yeah.
That's all right. One more person.
One more person.
Bruce Lee, the teacher of Bruce Lee?
The teacher of Bruce Lee. Oh. Bruce Lee, his master, Ip Man.
Perfect, Dr. Hindad. Perfect.
Yeah. No, it is still Charitra.
Okay. All right. So the sixth one.
Next, Balaji Basutkar has written is Aurobindo.
Wow, excellent. It's a right guess, Sri Aurobindo, one of the famous poets in India, and also a spiritual leader. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I revealed.
Was exposed.
Yeah. So, number 7, any guesses?
Dostoevsky. That's Rahman Kalendar has written that. Dostoevsky.
No.
No.
All right. So I'll just give you a hint. He's called the nature poet.
Zaradasht. No. Alan Anwar has written Zaradasht.
So actually, he's a British poet.
A British poet?
Yeah.
William Wordsworth.
Perfect.
That's written by again Charitra H.H. but with 2 question marks. So
okay, it is William Wordsworth. The next.
Okay.
The last one.
The last one, is it Albert Camus or French? I don't know.
I think when we were children, I think we're so passionate about those episodes. We're so passionate about it when we're children. I think even now. And he's the creator of that.
Osborne? Mu'min says Osborne.
No.
Cartoon creator, I don't know. Albert Camus.
Walt Disney.
Walt Disney. Walt Disney, yeah.
All right. So I think now, so thank you so much, all of you for your participation here. I think here we find 8 people. So why do you think I showed these 8 people? All right. One more simple question. Can we compare all these 8 people with each other? Can we compare? Can I compare, Albert Einstein's intelligence with William Wordsworth?
No, definitely no. You're talking about individual differences, sir.
Correct, Dr. Hindad. So here, of course, when we go to the classroom, we do find all these 8 kinds of people with different intelligences, with different learning styles. And yes, as we talk about it, so sorry, I'm just going back here, sorry. Okay. So when you go for that kind of learning styles, yes, the students do have different intelligences. They have different learning styles. Somebody actually, they want to learn through music. And somebody, they want to, do a group discussion and learn. And some people, they want to learn through some data. Mathematical intelligence would be very high for them. Or some people, they want to visualize. I told you that, something like, a storytelling. Okay. And some people, like body smart. So body smart is something like they want to move around the classroom and they want to learn. So we call it as kinesthetic intelligence. So can we integrate all these kind of, particularly like, when we go for a classroom, so whether can we have that kind of, integrated, teaching methodology actually in the classroom. So that is what actually our biggest challenge is. Okay, and yes, it's not a challenge. Okay, you can make that things come true. So that we can easily connect the knowledge, skills with the students if we give them how they want. This is what actually I wanted to say through this. And when it comes to talk about the suggested modes of felicitation, and of course this suggested, okay, one more thing. So I've used here the word felicitation, not teaching. Because whenever we go for higher education, it should be a kind of felicity. So you cease to be a teacher, but you become a moderator of learning process in the classroom. You become a felicitator. Okay. So coming to talk about that felicitation, yes, derived from that multiple intelligence theory. So I've suggested a few strategies here. So technology-based learning. So as we all know that this Gen Z people are so much passionately, emotionally connected with the computers. Okay, so we can actually take the advantage of that. Okay, and actually I try to stimulate that learning through that. And
so then, can I just remind you of the time, just because we are past exceeding our time? Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Himdat. Sure,
so that we have some time for questions and answers.
So this is the last slide.
Okay.
So then, we have to understand what could be the simulators in the beginning of the session. Then coaching and mentoring. So as a faculty or as a mentor, okay, so we try to be more a kind of, mentor and coach, okay, to our students. And then reverse mentoring. So reverse mentoring is very, very important. And see, if you can also adopt it actually in your higher education classrooms. So where it's not only you mentor, whether they can also mentor you, whether they can also mentor us. Because, in some of the dimensions, like even if IT or, something, they are more knowledgeable and more natives. Okay. So then group discussions, role plays, case studies, and self-reflectiveness. So this could be various strategies, where we can facilitate the learning process in a classroom. It's not just enough we are felicitating, but we're also creating that kind of a rich learning experience for our students, right? So this, the most awaited slide, I believe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we are.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Himdat.
Thank you very much, Professor. That was really very interesting and very informative.
Thank you.
And I personally have got benefit from it, and I'm sure that the participants and the audience watching us live on Facebook also got benefit from it, actually. There are two ways to ask your questions. One in the chat box, if you have something to write, and then if not, you can raise your hand using the icon, and we will allow you to talk. I will start with one general question about the traits and characteristics of Gen Z. Are they really universal, internationally accepted, or they change from one culture, one community into another, Professor?
Great. Yes, Dr. Himdat, indeed, it's a very good question. So there are certain traits. Obviously, the culture has got its own influences, okay, on the Gen Z. But however, when you come to actually a kind of their behavioral traits, might be that, beliefs or their values might differ, but their inclinations towards the things, they're almost the same. Okay, but yes, in some cases, yes, where the technology, okay, has not much penetrated into. So there, the cases might be different. But overall, if you take, yes, the traits would be the same.
Good. Thank you very much. Dr. Mormin, do you have something to say before we take questions? Okay, if you have questions, you can request that by raising your hand or writing in the chat box. Dr. Mormin, I'm asking you to unmute if you want to say something. Okay. Actually, until we get questions, sir, it is very interesting that around the world and across the world and cross-culturally, this new generation is spending more and more time with screen and with smart devices. And so their kind of mindset has also changed. And when their mindset changes, their learning strategies would be also, as you said, learning experience. They are ongoing process of learning experience. And this learning experience will be reflected in learning their teachings, their concepts, their languages, if they are learning language actually. So I believe as teachers, we need to think of the future, further future actually. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what would be the characteristics of the after Gen Z generation, let's say? What do you think will be the future generation characteristics that would be different from the Gen Z?
All right, Dr. Hinda, again, it's a kind of a mystical question, I can say.
Yeah, that's right.
Quite mystical. So, because whatever the research we have done, and yes, again, it's something empirically, something based on empirical data. So that we are actually making some assumptions, but we do not know what our world would evolve into after 10 or 20 years from now. So I believe 15 years ago we never knew that we can actually operate, or we can actually we may be having actually webinars like this. And not just 15 years, just a couple of years ago, we did not know that we'll be having this kind of webinars.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, we often, we say this VUCA world, actually we say VUCA, where this world is more volatile, okay, and of course, so more volatile, more ambiguity, okay, so more complex. So nobody actually is unable to predict, what is going to be our our world probably after a couple of years from now. Because as such, the evolution doesn't have a proper way, proper direction. So this is where actually we have, we have to evolve into.
Yeah.
But still lots of research is happening. But it's something like, where what we say, like the meteorological departments they say, today there might be a heavy rain, but today it doesn't rain at all. So probably, it may rain after some time.
Okay, sir.
So it's becoming
One of your ex-students is also with us, in addition to Momin. His name is Dildar. He said he reminded me of the great stories that you told us in 2011 in order to motivate us. His name is Dildar. Dildar Khan.
Oh, okay. Oh, Mr. Dildar. Yeah, I was just wondering. I was just looking at his name. I was just wondering if he's the same person or
yeah, he
is.
He is actually. We have one general question from Rahman Khalandar Hussein. He says, may you please give more detail about young people before and nowadays? Just a simple, I think you talked about it in one of the slides, the difference between generations and their characteristics on different levels.
Okay. All right. So, so they want some more information about...
that's what he says. If you want to add something more.
All right. So one thing I would like to tell you is, this is what it's not just for my personal observation, but, I've also come across this in various research studies. So these Gen Z people are not ready to accept the greatness of the faculty. Absolutely not. So somewhere actually I would like to elaborate on that. So I think previously I said that I do not want to introduce myself with all my academic background. So because the people, the first thing the question mark comes to them is, all right, so you have so much of academic excellence. So what is in it for me? Okay. And they actually, like you, okay, like you in the sense, the way of your teaching, only when you make them, superior. It's not that, you have to, as a teacher, you have to become superior, but make that student understand or make the student feel that you are actually a very important presence in my classroom. So once, if you can, keep their self-esteem high and make them feel more important in the classroom, so then they'll be more engaged in the learning process. And I often do this actually in the classroom. Okay, I'll just go to the class, or if you want, you can also try this, ladies and gentlemen, in your classroom. Just tell them, my dear students, you're so fortunate to have a teacher like me. Look at the response. And you can also give, okay, simultaneously you can give the other statement. My dear students, I'm so fortunate and privileged to have such elegant and vibrant students like you. So let's see for which statement you'll get much acclaim or good response. Probably absolutely not for the first one, the second one.
Sure, the second one, yeah.
So this is the one thing actually I would like to request all of you, that, make the students feel they are very, very important in the classroom. So then they'll be more and more engaged. And so never, trumpet our own excellence.
Very good, sir. Another student of yours is sending his hello, Rizgar Usman, I think.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Rizgar,
He's
Professor
also
Rizgar.
Here.
Yes.
So, and others also wish that you will be with us again in other Zoom meetings, other webinars in the future also.
My privilege.
So if there is no further question from the audience, I guess that would be it. Dr. Momin, are you with us still? Do you want to say your final word and we will close it?
Yes, thank you so much once more, dear Professor Manshaka. And it's really honor to have you. And it has been a long time that we couldn't have even visual meetings due to the schedule time frame that we have done. And thank you so much once more, Professor Himdat. This is really my honor to be here with both of you, two of my distinguished professors in a different stages of my study, one from BA and one from my MA. So again, thank you so much for all of the attendants and participants, and hope that you have done a prosperous time with our webinar. Thank you so much once more.
Thank you, Dr. Momin. In the name of Megamind Plus Academy for Education, Training, and Consultancy, I would like also to extend our thanks to Professor Oman Shakar. I called him Dr. Shakar on his demand, actually, but Professor Oman Shakar is a famous international figure, and we were honored to have you with us tonight. And thank you for the audience for being with us. Thank you for Shamal, for Kak Shamal, for organizing the forms and the emails and the groups. Thanks for Pshtiwan for designing the poster. And thanks for dear audience for staying with us for 90 minutes from their maybe rest time, which is usually the evenings with the families, which shows how motivated and how enthusiastic they are in order to have more knowledge. And that is in order to share it later on with their students or with their colleagues later on. Dear participants and audience, this session has been all recorded, and we are going to share the recording link with the groups. And with this, we are going to end our session. Professor Aman Shawkar, if you want to say your last words, and that would be it. Your mic, yeah, now it's on. Yeah.
So once again, I thank Dr. Himdad for such a wonderful opportunity. And to be frank, I'm much more delighted, okay, to see my, my vibrant students again, Dr. Momin, Professor Rizgar, and as well as Mr. Dildar, and all the participants, so for being more participative and inquisitive, okay, in learning the things. And I wish you all the best for your professional career. And yes, you can reach out to me at any point of time if you have any doubts. And once again, so thank you very much, Dr. Himdad, for such a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you very much again. Thanks for audience from different parts of the world, and have a good night. Stay safe, and let's be in touch. With your permission, I'm going to end the session.